I'm in my late 50s. So reality is I've 75% of the fuel used up. No matter what you do the maths, if I'm lucky, I've 25% of fuel left in the tank. So I've 25% of fuel left in the tank. I'm never refilling the tank. I'm not coming back. How I live every moment, every day of my life is phenomenally precious to me.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Chris G. and the Hard Hat, the CEO. And today I got a pleasure of speaking with a gentleman all the way from Ireland, Paul Ryan. And Paul owns several different businesses, but we're going to talk about the fact that he started and got to the CEO stage. And that's the whole point of everybody we want to help here on the podcast. Please help me welcome Paul Ryan. Hi, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to join you all the way from Ireland.
I guess I should. What time is it there?
It's 9 p.m. at night.
All right. Well, it's 3:00 p.m. here, and we'll move on here. So, you told me, but you can tell everybody. Give us a little history about Paul first before I get into the content of the. When did you start your business? I guess.
Well, I didn't. I started one of my business. I didn't start the other. The other business. So when I was 18 or 19, my father had an electrical contracting business.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted me to go to college and become an engineer and then take over his business. I said no to both. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to go to college. I'd had enough of schooling. And I certainly didn't want to work for his electrical contracting business because I'd done summers there as a kid and I just hated it. So so that was fine. I left it. I was due to leave school, whatever, in a while, the short months afterwards. And he came back to me a while later and he said, well, I've started this other business, called Temple. And when he said he'd started, he'd done nothing with it, but he kind of registered a name. And he had this idea that he would sell computer cabling products to contractors who are now installing computer cabling. And so he said, are you interested in joining that business? And I said, well, if it's nothing to do with your other business whatsoever, and if it's sales, distribution, etc., as opposed to contracting, then I'll get involved in that business. And so that was the start of that business. We just started off in a small house from a cupboard selling cables and connectors and bits and pieces. And it slowly grew over the years. He wanted to get out of contracting, which he did. He got out of contracting. And so then we were both in business together. And then out of that, we saw an opportunity to get into electrical wholesaling, distributing to them. So we set up another business doing that. And then my father left the business about 25 years ago. And that kind of is the journey. It seems so long ago now that I almost don't even find it that interesting to talk about. I suppose, interrupt me at any time. But for me, where my journey of learning really began, and you can guide me as to whether or not this is interest to your audience. But the thing is that when you start a business, and for those early years, I really worked very, very hard. You're building a business, you're growing a business. You want to get from that stage. I never wore a hard hat, but I did cycle a bike. I did literally do deliveries on a bike. So I went from literally to a push bike to eventually being CEO of the business. I worked very, very hard to build all that. My father was gone from the business. I was running it by myself. It was all going good. Certainly, if you looked at my life, it seemed like it was all going good. We built a beautiful home. I drove a nice car. I had all the perks that you hope to get when you're running your own business. And I was probably in my mid to late 30s at this stage. So I was doing pretty good until I'm sitting at my desk one day, probably about 20 years ago, sitting at my desk one day, and I begin to break out in a cold sweat. My heart's pounding at my chest, and I think, I'm going to die. I'm going to have a heart attack. And that was kind of the transitional moment for me in my life. I was sitting there going, I'm 30, whatever, late 30s. I'm sitting at my desk, and I think I'm going to have a heart attack. Now, my office is about 5-minute drive from the hospital. So all these thoughts are running through my head. I can still remember it 20 years later. All these thoughts are running through my head. Will the ambulance make it to me in time to save my life? Who's going to call my wife? I had a wife, 3 young sons. Who's going to call my wife? What's going to happen? All these terrifying thoughts are going through my mind. And so well, thankfully, I don't have the heart attack. I don't have the heart attack. But I pick up, I don't have the heart attack, but I go straight to my doctor because I go, what the hell is wrong? And he gives me full examination, and he goes, Paul, you're perfectly healthy. All's good. There's no problem with your heart. And I'm going, but doc, I've got this racehorse in my chest. What the hell are you talking about? And he goes, your heart's perfect. And I'm going, well, what's this? And he said to me, do you think you might be stressed? Now, I guarantee you, anyone listening to this, your podcast, who ever ran a business knows what stress is like, because it's the bread and butter of running a business. You experience stress. I've told the story to a number of other CEOs, and the kind of shocking thing about it was that I had not put two and two together. I mean, I was enormously stressed, overworked, overwhelmed, but I had no idea that was causing me these physical problems. I hadn't linked the two. My heart was pounding in my chest. I hadn't linked the two. And so it wasn't until the doctor said to me, stress, that I realized I had a problem going on. So got into my car, drove home, and I thought, well, because this had been going on for a while, maybe 6 months or so.
Oh, wow.
Not that level of severity. Like at that moment in the office, I'm going to die.
So it'd been giving you a little bit of nudging, but it really hadn't. It's like, well, I want to get.
Yeah, well, it was just, I was paying attention. But suddenly it's like, oh shit, I'm now going to have a massive heart attack and I'm going to die in my mid-30s. And in driving home, first there was a relief because I'm going, now I know what's causing it. The business is causing it. That's it. And so the problem. The cause of the problem. That's freaking easy. Fix that. I leave the business. I get out. That's done. And so there was a moment of tremendous relief when I thought, that's it. I just close in the business. I get out. And then, of course, you do a few more traffic stops at traffic lights, and reality dawns that, okay, how long before I'm broke? I mean, at that stage, the business wasn't at a value where I could have sold it at mid-30s and retired for the next 50 years. So it was like, how long? So I reckon life would be fun for about 6 months, at which stage I would have run out of money. We just built a new home. I had a mortgage, I had kids, all this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go from the frying pan into the fire. I'm just going to have more stress there. And I was kind of much more stress there. So my problem's not solved. But I knew I had to find a solution to this. And again, I'll shut up in a few minutes and let you talk. But so where this went to, effectively, the first stage where this went to was me realizing that eventually the aha moment for me, and the kind of second turning point in my life, was because I was going, well, this business is causing me a huge amount of stress. And it was, no doubt about that. And the aha moment was, it's not the business. It's how you run the business. And that was the quantum leap for me, that going, it's how I run the business.
So what did you have to, obviously you've had a little awakening and you've had a mind change of some sort, but did you get help to change how you run the business, or did you kind of learn from this mistake? Or go ahead.
So this is 20 years ago. I don't know what it was like 20 years ago in the States. How long are you in business, or how long are you in business?
I've been in business doing construction since 2001. I've been
a long time. You've been around.
Yeah, I've been around. Yeah,
so,
I've been in the corporate for 19. So
I don't know, if you go back 20 years in business, did you know anyone that could have told you how to run your business other than just work hard, graft all the hours that God sent?
No, back then you had books, and in a small town where I live at, there's very few mentors per se. Kind of talking about what you're talking about. Also the fact that, the internet back then was just starting out almost.
Yeah, there wasn't
information, but not like it is today. No podcast.
You couldn't go to YouTube and search, how do I run my business?
No YouTube.
So the reality of it was, I knew nothing other than I liked the idea of being successful.
Mhm.
And so I was drawn to people, friends of my father, etc., other people I knew in business who had been successful in business. But the one thing I knew about all of them is they worked 80-hour weeks. I mean, they worked flat out. It was very, very stressful. So I didn't know that I just didn't know there was another way to do things. But I knew that if I persisted doing what I was doing, I was going to kill myself, or I was going to end up alienating myself from my family, all of these sort of things. So there's no easy answer other than say that that's 20 years ago. And I have spent the last, I've spent the last 20 years obsessing with that idea of how do I create a life of peaceful prosperity. At the time I had prosperity, but I had no peace of mind. How do I create a life of peaceful prosperity? And I've studied it obsessively for 2 decades. And it started at very simple questions like literally self-exploration questions. Who am I? What do I really want in my life? What does happiness mean to me? What does fulfillment mean to me? How do I want to live my life? Then if I understand that, how do I want to engage in my business? What do I need to build? I traveled all over the world studying that, to the States, Europe, UK, to India on meditation retreats, all of this sort of stuff for decades. And I began from multiple different teachers in multiple different ways, began to connect with myself and learn about who I was, finding my own purpose in life, how I wanted to live my life, and then finding a way, then going back to my business and looking at my business and beginning to realize what the problem was in the business. And fundamentally, I was going to say I realized the problem was me, as I say, how I engage in the business. But when it's interesting because now I run a mastermind program called the 1 Hour CEO. And it's interesting. I spoke to a group of business. I presented this to a group of business owners yesterday, about 8 or 9 business owners, and they asked me to present to them. And I'm in a room with very successful people, some of them with very big businesses. And I assume when I walk into that room that these guys know all this already. And it's amazing the amount of people have achieved a lot of success, but they've achieved success, but they've paid an enormous price for that. They've paid a price in a couple of ways. They've paid a price in that it's all they know is running a business. They've never searched for their own personal fulfillment. And they haven't really discovered how to find that balance between peace and prosperity, which is why I believe people continually strive to build business, and they build and build and build and build. Because as entrepreneurs, we set out to build a business to achieve something, because we think that will give us something. And when we've achieved it, it's given us something, but it hasn't given us what we thought. In fact, it's stolen some of that first. But because we haven't done the maths and worked this out, we go, well, I now have a €1 million business, $1 million business. It's not here. It must be a 2 million business. So I build that. Oh, it must be a 5. Oh, it must be a 10. Oh, it must be a 15. Oh, it must be. And this is what happens. And they chase it all their lives. And my fear for people, when I speak to a lot of business owners, is that they literally are wasting their lives pursuing something out there when they need to be pursuing something in here.
I was in a podcast earlier this morning. I was a guest, and we talked about dreams and what the dreams. Everybody's dream is different, and everybody's idea is different.
Yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily. I mean, I prefer $1 million plus, but it doesn't have to be $1 million. I mean, whatever it is that you're happy with, and you're not killing yourself, and you're happy with and your family's happy, and you're not cheating yourself out of other things. That's what's important.
But here's the thing about it is that your business doesn't have to suffer. So what as I began to learn these things, I came back and I began to look at my business, and I realized my business was an unpleasant place to be at the time. That's the truth. There were people in who were unpleasant. We had a pretty lousy culture in the business of how people behaved, and the backbiting, squabbling. If you run a business, you know all about this, and all this sort of bitching that was going on. And I realized it wasn't a nice place to be. And my first simple thought was, I hate going in here in the morning. So I'm going to change that because no one can stop me from changing. That's my business.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to make it somewhere that the people who work for me enjoy going in the morning. And as I began to talk about that in the business, going, we're going to change this, there were people who began to battle with that because people liked the way they were doing things. There were certain individuals in the business, you know, 3 or 4 individual business that just were not up for that. I mean, you know, they liked the way they did things. They liked control. They had, you know, just assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that they were going to have to go from my business. So that took several years because that was so I had to start removing people out of the business and then bringing new people into the business. And I began to set a very high standard for the culture in the business. I worked very, very hard with that. I mean, now we've an exceptional group of business and the people. I have an exceptional leadership team. And honestly, I have a home in Spain and I spend a lot of the summer out there. And when I'm over there, what I do is every couple of weeks, I do a Zoom call into my team to see how they're doing. And I get off that call going, these people are smarter than me and they don't need me. And I think ultimately, if it's what you want to do, then you need to go down that process of learning how to build a correct culture in your business. Make sure you're only hiring A players, you know, top to bottom. Make sure you're putting proper structures in your business, proper measurements in your business, and put people in the business that are going to run it better than you do. And that's what I did, and that's what I do now. And I mean, for many years, that's my business. So my business continues to grow. We continue to expand. It's, you know, it's bigger and more profitable than when I was the guy in running it. But I just don't have to do that anymore. But now, so I've made it a much better place for me because I don't have to work in it. But I've also made a big point of making it a really good place for everyone who works there as well. So I have a good crew of people, and I think most of them think it's a good place. It's a good place to be. They're paid very well. They're treated very well. They're looked after very well. Every single member of staff, down to the guy who packs the boxes, is bonus on the performance of the business. So you create a whole culture of everyone thinking, this is our business, we're part of this family. And I work on a very simple principle that nobody works for me, which means nobody gets out of bed in the morning to make me rich. Nobody. Everyone gets out of bed to create a better life for themselves, for their partners, for the family, the children, whatever. And that's why they come into work in the morning. They've chosen just to do that with me as their employer. And my job is to facilitate that. So my job is to make it a great place for them to work, and to provide the rewards if they perform. But my job is also to be strict. And if people culturally don't perform, even if you're a manager, you'll be out of our business if you don't perform. So you get a group of high performers, but you create a positive, pleasant environment for those people to do. That it's a challenging thing to do. It can be done.
Absolutely. I talk about having faith, but it's not blind faith in the fact that you do have some checks and balances, and you obviously meet once with your Zoom meeting. Do you get reports?
Oh, big time. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't run the business on faith. You know, I mean, I run the business. I run the business on numbers, and the reality is
that you gotta have faith that those people are going to do their job, and then you check them, don't you?
Put it this way.
Yeah.
You're driving your car. You don't drive your car on faith. You drive your car on a dashboard. And when you're driving, I don't know if you can open your bonnet and fix things. I can't. So so I drive my car and I expect certain things in my dashboard: fuel, speed, oil. And I'm driving my car, and mostly my dashboard is giving all green lights, all symbols. And when it is, I just continue driving the car. But if my car gives a red light, then I investigate what that red light is, and I pull into the garage and I go, I've got a problem. So I run the business with a dashboard system, and the dashboard system is tracking. Some of them are obviously, I'm tracking the revenue of the business all the time. I'm tracking the GP of the business all the time. We're doing monthly accounts, so I'm getting full set of accounts of all the, the stock, the cash, the profits. I'm getting to every. So we're getting. I mean, I have a financial controller in the business, so I'm getting a full set of reports all the time. So I'm monitoring these all the time. When I meet with my team, I already know the numbers. I already know the facts. When I meet with the team, I'm getting the feel. And the feel is they're running something by me. Hey, we're thinking of doing this. Hey, what do you think? Or they're updating me on the soft stuff in the business that the numbers don't tell you. So I'm always monitoring those things that are key to the business. My business can't run without its key customers. My business can't run without its key suppliers. I have to have a certain level of revenues. I have to have a certain level of margins. I have to have a certain level of profits. I need my cash in a certain position. I need my stock in a certain position. So I'm looking at these metrics all of the time. The people who do this for me are very, very good. So thankfully, those metrics are almost never off. But at times in the business, a metric is off, and that's when you lift the hood, and that's when you deep dive and you want to explore, right? And well, what do I need more fuel in the tank? Do I need oil? Does it need a full service? But so you're digging right in when that happens. So I'm not running on blind flight. I'm running on a dashboard. But you don't need to every morning when you come out lift the bonnet of your car and examine everything in the car. It's a complete waste of time. You get into your car, you switch it on. If all the lights are green, then you drive. Then you drive your car. But there's a few things. I mean, if you run out of fuel, the car is going to stop. Or you run out of cash, the business is going to stop. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's things you go, I have to monitor these things. So you pay very close attention to these things. And then the check-in is just to make sure everything's okay with the team. The culture of the business is hugely important to me. So I don't get involved in recruitment or anything like that, but I will have a soft touch of just reminding them that we only employ people who are at this level, and that so I keep an eye on those sort of things, if that answers the question.
Oh, that's absolutely perfect. How many people are on your, I guess, directly report to you?
I have 3 people on the management team.
Sure. That's right. Yeah.
3 people on the management team, a financial controller, a COO, so it's a chief operation officer,
Right.
and a business development manager. The only person that reports directly to me officially is the COO. So there's me, the COO. COO does all day-to-day operations. I meet with the COO and the financial control. Every meeting I have is with the COO and the FC. The biz dev manager is on the management team. She technically reports into the COO. But I have a very good, so she doesn't report into me, she reports to CEO, but I've known her for a long time, a very good relationship, and we think very similar about the business and opportunities. So I do a casual meet with her about once a month. We actually just meet for breakfast. And so when I stepped away from the business, whatever, many years ago, I knew that she gets on very well with the COO, but I knew there would be something missing because he doesn't think about the businesses. I knew there was, for her, there would be a connection missing if I wasn't talking to her. So I went to him and said, look, you're the boss. I don't interfere, but are you cool if we meet for a friendly, if I meet with the biz dev manager for a friendly chat every month or so, because I will bounce, my background is sales. So I'll bounce ideas off her, and can we do this? Do you know what I mean? And we have like 2 salespeople have a different conversation than a salesperson, operations person. But I only have one direct report. Reality is my phone never rings, and I get an email from the business about once a week, and that email is payroll. And the financial controller sends me the payroll, and I scan them and I approve the payroll. That's about my task for the business. It's I'm not saying everyone should run the business that way, but I'm saying a lot of people should run their business that way. At a certain age, you should run your business that way. When I was speaking to the CEOs yesterday, as I was finishing my conversation, I said, what if someone was to gift you like one of the most expensive cars in the world, like a Bugatti or something, and they gave you a Bugatti, and when they gave it to you, they said, here it is a full tank of fuel, it's yours, it's free. There's only one problem is you can never refill the tank. So when the tank is empty, You ain't driving the car anymore. And it's an incredible car. So you drive it with extreme caution. You don't take it randomly going to the shops. You're very purposeful with everything you do in that car, and you're very cautious with how you use that fuel. And so and certainly a lot of people in the room I was speaking to, I mean, I'm in my late 50s. So reality is I've 75% of the fuel used up. You know, I mean, I've 25% of fuel, no matter how you do the maths, if I'm lucky, I've 25% of fuel left in the tank. So I've 25% of fuel left in the tank. I'm never refilling the tank. I'm not coming back. So how I live every moment, every day of my life is phenomenally precious to me. I see no sense. I have enough financially. So I see no sense in working 50 hours a week to build a business that will be distributed when I drop dead. I just don't see the sense of that. I'm not saying we shouldn't build businesses, but I'm just saying we should live our life, because at this point in time, I don't want to get to the end of my life and go, oh, I should have, because honestly, nobody will give a flying shit about the business you built, and I don't think you will when you're in your deathbed. It'll be, what's the life I lived? How did I spend my time with the people I love? That's so. I just have shifted the value in life, and that's how I live my life. My passion now is because I don't need to work anymore. I don't need to make money anymore. My passion now is helping other CEOs who want to make that shift but don't know how. Help them to find purpose in life, to really understand themselves, help them to find purpose, find a strategy to design their life, find a strategy to redesign their business so they can have freedom from the business, and help them integrate all that. That's my passion, because it's what I want to do. At the moment, I don't want to do it anymore. I'll stop doing it because I don't need to do it. But
sure.
the unique position, the thing most business owners have, if they're successful, is they have choice, where most of the population of the planet don't have choice. They need to get out of bed and they need to work till they're 65, and they hope to have a bit of a pension. If you build a successful business, you have a choice to do something with that. I'm just suggesting that people make that choice. The choice may be, Paul, I want to work 60 hours a week till the day I die. If you love that, that's what floats your boat, do it. But make a choice. Most people are doing that and they've never made the choice. They've never actually stopped and go, how do I actually want to live my life? What do I actually want to do? Who am I? What's my purpose here? Figure that stuff out first, and then go back and say, do I want to spend 60 hours a week in my business?
Now, not everybody can be a CEO or business owner. But you
That's
gotta
true.
have the people. You gotta have the people.
Most people can't.
Yeah. But it is important for them to be able to be the, I guess, CEO of their life.
I agree
Like you
entirely.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I talk about entrepreneurs, to me, I was in a retreat in Paris in September for 2 or 3 days with about 40 entrepreneurs. And when I came back from the retreat, having been immersed with these entrepreneurs, night and day for 3 days, I came back, and then I was mixing with the civilian population of non-entrepreneurs, and I began to notice there was a difference. And the difference was that when I'm in the company of entrepreneurs, their conversation is solution orientated. And when I'm in the company, not of all people who aren't entrepreneurs, but a lot of people who aren't entrepreneurs, their conversation is problem orientated, and dare I say victim oriented. But here's what I describe as an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a creator. Is someone who looks at it. They could be a nurse, they could be a school teacher, they could be a mother, may not have a business, but an entrepreneurial mindset to me is someone who has taken responsibility for their life and is going, this is how I want to live, and they're trying to create that. It could be a mother going, this is what I want for my family. And the entrepreneurial mindset is, how do I create that for my family? And the victim mindset is, why isn't the world giving that to my family? So I think this idea, I think anyone can be CEO of their life, and I think anyone can take on that entrepreneurial mindset without ever starting a business. So I love entrepreneurs, but a lot of entrepreneurs will never start a business.
You mentioned, do you have a human resource department now, or a person in charge of hiring?
No, we don't. The managers do that themselves.
Okay. Well, how do you that's one of the big things here that we hear about. Well, getting the right person in the job, and what if you don't like them? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, how do you all go through the process of hiring somebody that will be a good part of the team? I know culture. You mentioned
Yeah.
that, but they
No,
got to transfer that over to hiring.
we do a lot of very simple things in the business. And the simple thing is meet people, talk to them, interview them 2 or 3 times. You can't always get it right, but get a sense of the person's cultural fit. The most important thing is the person's cultural fit. If you have the skill base, but you're not a cultural fit, we don't want you, because you're going to disrupt a company with a superb culture. So we first want someone who is a fit. I used to say to people, I used to say a couple things to people many, many years ago, which I don't anymore. But I used to say, I don't shout at people, but I do fire them. So I don't want people here that require me to be aggressive and shout and be on top of them. I'm not interested in that. I'll just fire you. I don't in the business. And so when we're interviewing people, we talk a lot about the culture. We talk a lot about the values of the business. We talk about the type we want there. And we do go, we're not changing because this is who we are. You need to decide if it's a fit for you. And if there's a fit, if you go, that's the type of place I'd like to work, then come on in. But if it's not, please don't, because it won't work out, So we talk about the cultural values and we see how people fit with that. Then we want to go and we look at the skill, the expertise, check reference. So we do all that simple stuff. But also we have had when I began this shift in the business many years ago, we had a lot of people who just weren't fits for the business anymore, because the culture I wanted to create was not a culture they were going to fit into. We had some people who weren't cultural fits, who liked to misbehave, who liked to blame, who liked to cause rows, liked to cause arguments, liked to fight with other departments. And we just gave those people clear ultimatums. We said, look, you have the talent, but you're not a cultural fit. Here's the culture of the business is going to be now. And it's zero tolerance. There's no, oh yeah, you're a great guy, you're a great sales guy, or you're great at this, and so we'll tolerate misbehavior. No, we won't. It's zero tolerance. So you now got to decide. One strike and you're out. You've got to decide, do you want to stay here enough that you can begin to behave the way we want you? Or is that just not you? Some people just left. But we have a number of people now who, if you'd met them 15 years ago, you would have gone, they're troublemakers, they're not cultural fit. But I think they saw the way the company was changing, and they wanted to stay with the company, but they probably had a hard look in the mirror and go, they'll just fire me. They'll just fire me if I don't behave properly. They will just fire. It's like misbehaving children. They learn that if a parent is strict. I would think I'm a very nice and easy guy to work for. But if you break the rules, and those rules, I'm going to call them misbehavior, but those rules are where you start behaving badly or get abusive to people, or all these sort of things, you'll just be gone. That's it. So people learn that. So we take a very, very simple approach of just meeting people and going, are you a cultural fit? It's the most important thing we're looking for. The most important thing we're looking for.
I love your idea and the dashboard.
Yeah.
Image you were giving us, and the dials and the gauges on there. Over the time, how did you decide what gauges or what we call them key performance indicators?
Yeah, of course. I'm just simplifying it because
absolutely no. Yeah. So how did you pick those out? Did the group come together, or did you have an idea, or did you get some input? And I'm assuming they've changed over time, maybe too.
I think it's very, very simple from the point of view that in any business, we're a distribution business, so there's a few key things that I know the business, if the top line is going in the right direction, you need your top line going the right direction. So I can't ignore that. I always have to be watching the top line. So look, I mean, we have very detailed reports that are available, we've detailed sales reports and we've detailed account reports. But I mean, the simple things for me are, I have to know what the top line is all the time. And I have to be able to compare that top line to target. And I have to be able to compare that top line to historical so I can see who are performing. I need to see that. I'm a blind man if I don't see that. But I need to see how our margins are as well, because, sales without maintaining our margins or holding our margins are delusional as well. So I obviously need to see those. I obviously need to see how our costs are tracking, so I can see that that those margins are transferring into profit. So I need to see those things. We're an entirely cash funded business. We own we don't use any bank debt. We just use all our own cash. We own our own buildings. That's just the way we run the business. But obviously, and we import and distribute stuff. So I need to give an idea. I need to see where the cash line is at. So it's not that difficult to figure out that if our sales are going the right way, if our profits are going the right way, if our cash is going the right way, obviously if our relations with our key customers, if their numbers are going right, we've key suppliers. So it's not easy in any business to sit there and go, okay, most of the stuff I don't need to worry about, but I need to know these. It'll probably come down in almost any business to maybe 6 things or something that you need to watch all of the time, because these, if something goes wrong with these, I need to be looking in. And you can sit in the beach in Spain for 2 months, that's fine. But as long as all these things are going. But if you see a problem with one of these, you need to be on it. And that means talking to one of your management. And you might find out it's a temporary, you might find out it's a simple explanation for something, that's fine. Or you might find out,
for something, yeah,
that's life. Or you understand it. Or you might find out that there's a problem emerging. If that problem is emerging, then you need to lift the bonnet. You need to get the gloves on, and you need to dig deep. I have a very experienced team, so I very rarely have to do that. But there have been times you've got to roll up the sleeves and you've got to dig right in with the people, so you could understand and maybe fix a major problem. So you have to be willing and aware to do that all the time. One of the problems with people who try this is that people confuse delegation and abdication, and that's the big mistake people make. And I've spoken to people about this, and they go, "Yeah, I tried it. It doesn't work." And I go, "I tried it, and it does work." So, so obviously, we're not trying the same thing, because it does work, and it's repeatable in almost any business. Once you have a certain size, because if your business is very small, if your business is maybe sub 3 million or so, I don't know if you can do it, because can you afford to employ the people to do it? So maybe you need, we've an 8-figure business, so you need a business for certain scale. I think you probably need a business above about 3 million or so, but it varies depending on the margins in a business. But when people tell me it hasn't worked, as I peel away the conversation with them, I find a few things. I find that they kind of go, "Oh, I left my business to kind of run." People say to me, "Your business runs itself." No business runs itself. No business runs itself. That's a lie. When people are trying to sell you that idea, they're probably people who don't actually have businesses. I've been in business for 40 years. So, I don't know if you're married or in a relationship. I'm married for 35 years. I don't leave my marriage to run itself, because probably I wouldn't still have a marriage if I left it to run itself. I need to, I need to, I need to pay attention. I need to pay attention to my wife. My 3 sons are adults. If I want a relationship with those, I need to engage them. I can't go, I need my relationship with my sons to look after itself. No, I need to engage in it. So saying you can, some of the mistakes people make is they just leave the business run itself. A business does not run itself. You design a business that runs largely without you, which is very different. So then I go back to, what's the team, what's the culture you have in place? That's the foundation. Oh, well, you've culture problems. Okay, whoa. You can't go anywhere until you create an amazing culture in the business. That's hard work. Well, I'll talk you through that. You can do that, but that means hiring and firing people, and I mean setting a standard is non-negotiable. So you begin to set that culture in place. Now you need an A team. You need an A team right through the business, but that means hiring great people, firing shitty people. That's you got to do that, and then you need all your measurables in place, and then you need a leader in the business. If you're not going to be in every business needs a leader. Every captain needs a ship. If you're not going to be that, you need a leader in place. So when I'm not there, there's an obvious leader in place, a very capable leader in place, my COO. And everyone in the business knows that and looks to him. But I set all those structures. So I built all those layers. When people do my mastermind, I take them through what I call the 7 steps to freedom in your business. But because you have to build all of these steps. And so people leave their business and they walk away from it. I call it they're just abdicating responsibility. It fails and they go, it doesn't work. No, you didn't build the structure properly. I don't abdicate from my business. I've delegated my business, but I delegate it via the dashboard. So these 7 steps to freedom in your business, you have to go through these to make sure you have, and it'll be different for every business. And then there's 4 or 5 responsibilities that you can never delegate from your business. So you always have to be holding the vision for your business. You always have to be demanding a certain standard of culture. There's a number of things. So you've got to get all these pieces in place. When I speak to people who fail trying to do this, they just haven't built it properly. They just haven't. I mean, if you're in construction, that the building's going to fall down if you haven't built it properly. Don't blame the construction industry because your building fell down and you didn't build it properly. If you build it properly, it remains standing. If you take your time and build a business properly and put these things in place, you will have a very, very good business. If you don't, it will fail. Most people fail. I'll shut up now. But most people fail, and what they fail on is culture. Most business owners I know fail on culture because they tolerate poor behavior in the business. As long as you tolerate poor behavior in the business, you will be a slave to that business. You have to stop tolerating poor behavior, but that's very difficult because stopping tolerating poor behavior means standing up to people, and most people don't have the courage to do that. So you have to grow a pair and stand up and go, this is the standard of my business. You operate this way and you will love it here, or you won't. That's it.
I can't think of a better way to end this podcast because that was an awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to grow a pair? Grow a pair. No, I'm all, no, that's awesome. No, there's no doubt, and everything you said is absolutely true. There's no question about it. Because you gotta, those type of people are like an apple in the apple barrel. You know, one apple will rot in the rest of them. That's just part of it. Yeah, can't have it.
You can't.
So, Paul, if anybody wanted to reach out to you and learn more about your mastermind, what would they do?
Oh, find me on LinkedIn. Paul Ryan, the company's Temple. Look me up. You'll find me there. Send me a DM. Probably the best thing to do.
So is there anything else like today that you found interesting and you'd like to talk to me about? You can also go to Hard Hat the CEO and listen to past episodes, and also reach out and we can possibly have another consultation about getting out of that hard hat area and being a CEO. So thank you, Paul, for the day. And it has been a pleasure. Absolutely. Bye-bye.